Welcome, everyone. We will get started. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here for our second installment on energy savings. This is Energy Savings 102, Beyond the Basics. We have a fantastic set of panelists that were our panelists for Energy Savings 102, and they will be building off of some of the foundational skills we learned in that first session. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our MyGBC YouTube page. We've shuffled things around a little bit there, and so you'll find it under energy efficiency. And we'll also be sharing a lot of links in the chat. I will have a summary slide of the links that will be shared in the presentation. So if perhaps you missed one or aren't able to capture one, know that that will be available for you a little bit later. As always, we like to appreciate our partnerships with our sponsors and supporters. Without them, this work would not be possible and we would not be here. And as you all probably know by now, the Lansing 2030 District is supported by, is a program of the Michigan Green Building Collaborative. And we always like to appreciate all of our supporters to help this work come through. If you are on this call and you would like to get more involved with us, please let me know directly. We've got opportunities for sponsorship, engaging on events, tours, education sessions, and otherwise. So as you probably know by now, my name is Audrey Whaling. I am the 2030 program manager for the Michigan Green Building Collaborative. I oversee the Lansing 2030 District as well as started to support the Grand Rapids 2030 District. And today we've got a couple of key objectives we're going after. We're going to review what happened in Energy Savings 101. We're going to talk about the importance of benchmarking. We're going to dive into audits, which I think is probably why everyone is here today. We're going to look at some other opportunities to level up your energy savings. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the financial aspects of that as well. And then we're going to learn about some real world case studies, and you, the audience, will have an opportunity to ask questions. Please feel free to populate those in the chat as we move along, or wait till we have our panelists to ask. We've got some expertise that you don't want to miss the opportunity to chat with. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, or have them introduce themselves. We have some great folks from the Michigan State Industrial Training and Assessment Center. So Juliana, I'd like to start with you.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Juliana Thompson. I'm a graduate student in environmental engineering at Michigan State. I am the Student Center lead of the MSU Industrial Training and Assessment Center, and I've been with our program for about 4 years. I'll go ahead and pass it to Deb.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here today. This is Debrudra Mitra. I'm a research engineer in Michigan State University, a part of the Industrial Training and Assessment Center, like the ITAC team. My background is mostly in mechanical and energy systems, and I did my PhD from Michigan here only, and then I went out, I worked in industry for a few years, and then I'm working here. So looking forward to the session, and then I'll pass it to the BWL team.
I'm Glenn Voisin. I am the C&I program manager for their BWL's EWR program, and I am a CEM, a Certified Energy Manager, and have about 15 years experience in the energy efficiency field. But I've also worked in factories and commercial operations, so I kind of see both sides of the thing. With me is Nate Simon, and I'll let him go.
Yeah, so I'm an energy advisor, and I work beside Glenn. And I have an expertise in lighting for the most part, and with a background in that. And yeah, so we just help process rebates for our Board of Water and Light customers, which we'll detail later. Josh Peterson could unfortunately not make it today, but he's another one of our colleagues that works beside us, and he'll be able to answer any other questions following up through his email if necessary.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. If our audience has not had a chance to interact with any of these panelists or BWL or the Michigan State Industrial Training and Assessment Center, they are excellent resources, incredibly supportive and responsive. Continue to love collaborating with you all. So again, thank you so much for being here. We're moving on to a quick poll just to get an idea of who our audience is. So what kind of stakeholder would you consider yourself to be? Are you a business or building owner, facilities manager, perhaps a community stakeholder, or professional partner. And then where would you say you're at on your energy savings journey? Looks like we have at least one expert in the room, which is great. And whether you're just beginning or you're an expert, it's great to be here to understand the opportunities that are available and what potential next steps you can take. So we've got about 10, wow, you're coming in fast, 12 responses or so. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ending the poll. And it looks like we've got some excellent, diverse range of experience in the room. Some folks who are a little bit earlier in their journey, and some folks who consider themselves experts, and a number of others in the room. So thank you again. Move this on. All right. Just a quick reminder, this came together through the Lansing 2030 District, which is a public-private partnership between building owners, business owners, community stakeholders, other professionals to help drive down energy use in buildings, which is hopefully why you are all here, amongst some other goals. And through that, we're able to save money, we're able to save energy, we're able to create a high-performing building district in the Lansing area, as well as invest more money into our community by saving money on energy and putting money into our pockets. I am not going to read all of these definitions, don't you worry, but I do want to capture them here. They will be available in the slides later. Terms that you are going to hear likely a lot today, the term ASHRAE, which is the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers. ASHRAE audit, you'll hear that a lot. And an ASHRAE audit is a standardized professional assessment of a building's energy efficiency system and usage based on guidelines from ASHRAE. I'm not going to walk through levels 1, 2, and 3 because our friends at Michigan State ITAC will do that for us. But I did want to call that out here. And then another set of definitions. This came up in our last conversation about how to achieve an Energy Star score. So what is an Energy Star score? It's a measure of how well a property is performing relative to similar properties when normalized for climate and operational characteristics. It takes into consideration hours, building sizes, and the scores range from 1 to 100. So we'll learn a little bit more about that. And then commissioning is something else that we'll discuss today. Quick recap of what we learned in Energy Savings 101. We learned about the fabulous programs from Michigan State ITAC as well as BWL. Thanks for being here again today. We reviewed some common systems to evaluate and looked at low or no cost opportunities for energy savings as well as cost savings and how to implement those. We even took a gander at our utility bills and where were some easy wins that we could take. We discussed the preliminary walkthrough process, how you can continue to take action without engaging in another, engaging or investing perhaps outside of your organization. And we talked about the importance of benchmarking, which I'll touch on in one moment. And there were some great case studies that reviewed some of these low, no cost, easy wins, as it were. If you're looking to learn more or refresh your memories, Energy Savings 101 is available on YouTube. and that I'll drop this chat in a moment. So if we think about benchmarking, you've done all of the low or no cost opportunities and you're really not sure where to go next. If you haven't started benchmarking, that is a great place to start. It gives you a baseline of where your building is at, where your energy use is at, what the status of that is, so that you have a moment in time that you can continue to compare to. If you haven't done that, you don't necessarily know if you're improving or perhaps falling behind. It gives you an opportunity to also compare to buildings that are similar stock in your area. And if you can't do that, then it's a great opportunity to be in a competition against yourself. Of how can you continue to get better? There's a couple of action steps that you can take with regard to benchmarking and some tools here that I'll share a bit more about. But at the end of the day, you can't manage what you haven't measured. So we always encourage folks to start with measurement. The Energy and Carbon Guidebook is a great resource that the Grand Rapids 2030 District Professional Partners developed. And it's a great tool to walk through for building owners and businesses and community stakeholders. They have in their hands to work through on their own as far as how they can take action. And one last plug for some of the tools that we offer through the Michigan Green Building Collaborative. We have an automated energy benchmarking service. So if you really want to benchmark, but perhaps you don't have the time or the capacity or the resources to make it happen, you can engage with us. It is a fee for service. And so you work with us, we work with you and your utility, and we essentially set it up and take care of it for you. It's a great opportunity to get a leg up or to start moving on that program, or start moving on benchmarking if you want to do it, but you don't necessarily have the resources. So if you've done all of those things and you are ready to level up, this is where the rubber hits the road, or this is where it's going to get really interesting, and it's going to be a lot of great information for you. So with that, I will pass it to our friends at the Michigan State ITAC.
Yeah, so to begin, if you've completed benchmarking, your facility already, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Audrey. The next step would be to consider an energy audit or an assessment. A lot of facilities we see, they understand their benchmarking. They might be using more energy, compared to similar types of buildings, and want to reduce that energy, but aren't quite sure how to accomplish that. And so an energy audit or assessment is a great tool to use. These programs, they survey and conduct the way a facility is currently consuming energy and identify opportunities to reduce energy consumption, as well as some costs and emissions related to that. Energy audits and assessments are typically used interchangeably, but they do have slightly different definitions. An audit is more focused on improving electricity and natural gas specifically, whereas an assessment includes kind of more holistic additional to electricity and natural gas, potential water reduction opportunities, productivity improvement, waste and recycling, kind of a whole sustainability outlook. And as we mentioned, so these build off of preliminary energy analysis, which would include benchmarking. And so for audits or assessments, there are some different levels of them, but first we want to talk about how this might appear differently versus in a commercial building versus an industrial building. So you go to the next slide, Audrey. So this table highlights some of the key differences, especially within what our ITAC program has identified, and kind of how differences in commercial and industrial buildings will impact the energy assessment process. So for commercial buildings, these are generally smaller than industrial facilities. The ITAC program will consider commercial buildings up to 100,000 square feet, whereas industrial buildings are generally larger. There's some on the smaller side of 30,000 square feet, but we've also assessed buildings as large as 1 million square feet. I would say the typical is around 150 to 200,000 square feet. But with industrial facilities, because they are larger, there's more complex systems to look at. The assessment time on site will take longer, and there's just more care given to those specific process-related components of industrial facilities. The main energy consuming systems in commercial industrial buildings are a little different. Commercial buildings mainly focusing on HVAC, lighting, and envelope, whereas industrial facilities, again, they will have those industrial process loads, the machinery that'll be more complex, and along with that is typically compressed air systems. And so just in general, there's more building systems to analyze in industrial facilities. Operation of commercial industrial facilities also vary, with commercial buildings typically being your 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, typical business hours, whereas a lot of industrial facilities, many of them operate 24/7 or maybe 24/5. They're shut down on the weekends. And so there's just a need to understand the variation in occupancy to help assess use of equipment and potential savings. If you're using equipment around the clock versus only 8 hours a day, there's going to be difference in savings quantified there. And then finally, going back to kind of HVAC and the heating and cooling needs of a facility, most commercial buildings, especially around Michigan, are both heated and cooled, looking for comfort of the occupants. Whereas most industrial facilities, they'll have heating, that's needed in Michigan. We get pretty cold winters, but not all of them will have cooling equipment. If they do, it's strictly related to process in the manufacturing area. Typically, they're not going to be cooling for employee comfort in the process floor, maybe if they have a small office section. But this, again, just impacts the recommendations that we can create. So with this in mind, we'll move on to kind of the different levels of ASHRAE audits. So yeah, if you want to go to the next slide. So starting with level 1. Level 1 is called a walkthrough analysis. This is typical of what a utility provider would offer for a customer. And so These audits include a visual inspection of kind of key building systems, and there's really minimal on-site data collection taken. The time requirement is pretty short, maybe only a few hours on site for the assessment, and then pretty quick report turnaround. The emphasis of these audits is to consider, again, low and no cost energy efficiency projects, kind of what are the low hanging fruit. And these audits provide opportunity for a facility to prioritize potential projects to look at in the next budget cycle, things like that. And the deliverable will be a preliminary report, might consider brief annual utility consumption, kind of looking at just like an annual scale, and may potentially have rough estimated savings for projects, but again, focusing on those low and no cost efforts and kind of low hanging fruit. So we'll go to the next slide for level 2. These are the level of audits that the MSU ITAC provides. These are energy survey and analysis. These include non-invasive on-site data collection, a more thorough visual inspection of building systems. The time requirement is kind of medium, it's right in the middle. Typically, we spend 1 to 2 days on site. The ITAC aims to get it done in 1 day, so around 6 to 8 hours on site. And the report or deliverable timeline can take a few weeks to 60 months, or a couple of months, with the MSU ITAC aiming to get the report completed in about 60 days. Types of recommendations, we include a mixture of both low and no cost options, medium cost, capitally intensive, really aiming to just focus on what the needs of the building are, what projects are they interested in us pursuing. And with the deliverable, we try to quantify energy savings as much as possible, as well as perform a financial analysis on those savings, with implementation costs, the payback period, things like that. And we also do a more thorough analysis of the utility bills, looking at specifically the utility rates, potentially interval data if you're an industrial facility, things like that. So it's a level up from level 2, but not quite as in depth as the next level, which would be level 3. If you want to go to the next slide, that'd be great. So level 3, this is typically you're gonna go to a consulting firm and hire this out. It's a much more detailed analysis, and specifically focusing on capitally intensive modifications. These level of audits include extensive data collection and logging on specifically large energy consuming equipment. The time requirement with these is very high. They might spend days to weeks on site and leave data logging equipment on building systems. And it could take many months on a report turnaround. Like I said, these focus again on capital intensive energy projects. It's not really looking at the lower level ones. And with the deliverable, it's highly refined analysis. Typically, they involve building energy modeling to have highly accurate simulations to help illustrate savings. Again, these are the most in-depth level, but typically reserved for very complex systems and industrial facilities, things like that. So we'll go to the next slide. Here we just show kind of a high level overview of, again, the 3 in comparison. I'm trying to call out some of the main differences. And so like I said, level 1 is typically consistent with what a utility would provide. Level 2 is what the MSU ITAC program provides. And then level 3 would be a potential different consulting firm. So if you want to go to the next slide. From here, if you're curious in having an energy assessment done, what might preparation look like? So this is typically split up into kind of 3 components. You have pre-assessment, assessment day, and post-assessment. And for pre-assessment, there might be some interest forms. You have to let the utility or the MSU ITAC team or whoever you're getting an audit done know that you want one. And for MSU ITAC, we require 12 months of utility invoices for electricity, natural gas, and water. And there might be additional supporting documentation requested, like a facility layout, or equipment list, more specific for industrial facilities. And then with that, you could expect a meeting with the assessment team before assessment day to discuss logistics and gather some preliminary information about the facility, just to help prepare the team for the assessment day. From you, if you want to go to the next slide. On assessment day, I would say one of the most key things is if you're having team come have an assessment or perform an assessment, to have personnel available. The more information that can be provided to the team, the easier it is to identify what projects you're interested, to be able to quantify the energy savings, things like that, as well as accessibility to the facility as much as possible. We've been in there's very highly controlled like clean rooms, don't want to bring a bunch of people in there, totally fine. Security things. But for the team to be able to see as much of the facility as possible, to find as many potential recommendations is always helpful. If you're interested, discussing any challenges that your facility has faced, or projects that you're looking at, that's wonderful for us to then take a deeper look at. As well as kind of at the end of the day, we'll have this list of potential recommendations that we'll share and just provide your input. If we have thought of an idea that you're like, our company's never going to do that in a million years, let us know. And so with this, level ones, like I said before, they'll spend a couple hours on site. It's mostly just a walkthrough. Level 2 assessments will do kind of a walkthrough at the first kind of half, and then do data collection in the second half with like non-invasive data collection. And then level 3, sometimes level 2, will likely leave data logging equipment for long-term duration, and so they'll have to come back and pick that up. If you want to go to the next slide, we will close here with what post-assessment looks like. So after the team has completed the assessment day, they will take time and work on writing a report. Typically, there is some follow-up with maybe some remaining questions or requested materials to be able to quantify savings. But the final detailed report will be presented, and typically we set up a meeting with the clients, to go through the report and what recommendations we made, and if they have any questions, things like that. And after an extended period of time, typically it's 6 months, 10 months, and maybe 18 to 24 months, we'll just reach back out to the company and ask, hey, what projects did you like? What ones did you implement? Just to see, where companies are going and what they're interested in doing. I think that is all of my slides, Audrey. Perfect. So I'll pass to Deb then for these next ones.
Yeah. So now, thanks, Juliana. So now as we saw, okay, what we are expecting during the assessment. So the next question is, okay, who provide these services? So for that, there are different options. As Juliana was mentioning, our ITAC team, which is funded by Department of Energy, that provides a no cost assessment to the manufacturer. Similarly, there are many other options are available in the market today. There are multiple of them are listed in the MIGBC webpage only. If you want to, please go there, look into the options. Each of them is generally based on different utilities or section. Now each of them has their own requirements and regulations. So specifically what you are looking into, look into that, which one is kind of matching with your specific target, and then that's first point. So these are few options we put here, which are no cost to the facility, the assessments. And if you move to the next slides, there are many other, who do assessment. There are energy firms who do energy assessment. Now, because those are paid services, the cost is vary significantly. There is no specific rule of thumb to say okay, for this building it would cost this much. Just as an overview, this cost may vary from kind of maybe 5 cents to $1 per square feet. But again, this is a broad estimation. It can vary significantly on the audit level and how complex is the system. If we look into level audit, ASHRAE audit level 1, it will be on the cheaper side. But if you look into audit level 3, it would be much more expensive. Similarly, a small, maybe a simple building, or maybe a small shop, it would be cheaper. But if it's a big industrial facility, or a complex like a hospital or any other system, the cost would be different. So it totally depends on which place you are looking into. And then at the same time, there is additional time commitment required for communications with which energy firm you are looking into working going to. And then so that also comes with some additional money, because time is also money. So just keeps your put it into the head, yeah, there are some free resources and there are some additional paid resources, and it totally depends on what specifically your objective and what you are looking into. And yeah, that's mostly for us at this moment, and we'll pass it to the BWL team.
Thank you so much, Deb. Excellent resources here. Again, these slides will be available post-presentation, so if you want to dive into some of the resources available, that will be able to happen. BWL, take it away.
Perfect. Well, yeah, my name's Nate. And again, work with Glenn here, but just a brief overview of what we do is we offer incentives for these energy efficient upgrades. So when, say, you have an audit, and you don't necessarily need to have the audit, but it's a good next step. Is if you take part in with what they were referring to, you can then come up to us and essentially request incentives in order to make those recommended improvements. And so we have a wide variety of applications, and actually just pulled up the link here. I'm going to put that in the chat. Give me 1 second. So here is a link to our webpage that will detail a lot of the different applications that we have. And then we also do like home energy visits, stuff like that through the MEO program. But what this is going to do is it's going to, obviously make your business a little bit more efficient, help reduce some of your maintenance costs, and then improve some of your work environments when it comes to the quality of light or just generally having more updated equipment. And so this slide here, this is just kind of detailing some of the incentives that we offer. So this is the incentive guide. It's not everything that we offer. And I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to read since it's so small. But, throughout here, you'll see different measures dealing with things like compressed air, maybe commercial refrigeration, different lighting upgrades. We do things with, indoor agriculture, different food service equipment, things like that. And pretty much anytime you do anything that impacts your utility bill and you're improving the efficiencies of your process, chances are there's going to be some sort of rebate on the table for you. And so it's going to essentially just just extra money in your pocket to help you achieve your energy saving goals.
Yeah, I would also like to add that these are our prescriptive incentives. We also have custom incentives. So if you don't see it here, it doesn't mean we can't give you an incentive on it or a rebate on it. And especially anything that ITAC identifies and can quantify for us, we could provide a rebate for it.
Yeah, and also say if you do a big lighting project and say it costs you $5,000 to upgrade all of your lights, and we calculated an incentive of say $8,000. What we're going to have to do is we're going to cap that at the project cost. So you wouldn't be able to necessarily make money off of our program, but you are eligible to have up to 100% of your project covered through us, and that does include labor costs as well. And there's a case study kind of detailing some of those different scenarios as well that we'll get to a little later. But yeah, so some of the notable initiatives that we're doing right now is we're starting a compressed air pilot. And so what we're doing here is we have partnered with a local contractor to come by with some tools to just kind of try to figure out the efficiency of your compressed air system and where some leaks or inefficiencies may be occurring. And then they're going to give you a report of their findings. And then when any leaks or inefficiencies are discovered, we are able to cover the cost of those repairs through our incentive program. And then do you want to add anything to the compressed air pilot, Glenn?
Yeah, like you said, we come out with an ultrasonic detector to identify any leaks that are in the system. The contractor will tag them. You can fix them yourself, or they would also give you a cost on fixing those. And like you said, If the contractor or a contractor of your choice comes in to fix those, then our incentive program could help defray that cost of a contractor doing it if you don't want to do it yourself. But you just don't realize how much little leaks will cost in a compressed air system. Everybody's kind of heard about the leaking toilet, using a lot of water. It's the same type of thing. A little leak in the air system can use up a lot of air, and you have to then recompress it, and in order to use it where you want it to use it. So it is a vital project, and this is for smaller. This pilot is for smaller systems. A lot of the big industrials have this happen quite a bit. They have surveyors come in and check their leaks, but the tire shop that you got your tires from, they have compressed air, but they don't often check for leaks. If they hear it, they may fix it, but there's a lot of leaks that can happen where you can't hear it. So that's why we're doing this pilot, is to identify some of those smaller customers that can still benefit from these things and make them aware of the benefit to it.
Yeah. Then speaking of small customers, the small business program is another notable initiative that we're doing where we are able to offer much higher incentive amounts through the small business program. A good example of this is your regular 4-foot LED tube. Through our commercial industrial program, we give out $5 per tube on those. And through our small business program, we give out $10 per tube. And so the average cost of an LED tube is around $5 or $6, I would say. And this kind of gives you the opportunity to also recoup some of your labor costs if you were to have a contractor come by and install this. So that's a great program. And like I mentioned before, it's well, I lost my train of thought for a second. I'm sorry. But yeah.
So one of the things for small business, we consider anything less than 25,000 square feet as small business. That's one of the requirements. The other thing is one of the reasons we do upgrade those incentives is because larger commercial and industrial customers may have maintenance people on staff so that they can do some of these upgrades. Whereas a small business, it might just be the owner and he's got other things to do or she's got other things to do, and they have to get a contractor. So we're trying to help cover that cost of having a contractor come out and help out with these upgrades. So that's why we do offer higher incentives for the small business, because we want them to participate. We want them to save energy, and those smaller energy savings in comparison go, I think, a lot farther with small business because their margins are quite tight. So that's another reason we do that. Now, because of the higher incentives, we do have a annual cap of only $10,000, whereas the C&I program is at $100,000 per year. So there's some trade-offs, but do a project every year and eventually you get up to the same level.
And what I mean here by may take part in both small business and C&I programs is even if you're a small business, that doesn't disqualify you from taking part in our commercial and industrial program. So if you say had an incentive value of, say $20,000 on the small business program, we would have to cap you at $10,000 through the small business, but any sort of measures that are on the small business program are also on the C&I application. And so while the remainder that you get may not be incentivized as high of a rate, you'll still be able, you're not at a complete loss there. we're able to run that through our commercial industrial program and still give you those incentives that you would normally qualify for. And then also there's going to be some things on the commercial industrial application that may not be on the small business application. And so you may, kind of go back and forth through the two applications and make sure that all of the areas that you improved are incentivized. And yes, you're just not limited to one bucket, so to speak. And then, yeah, so there's also on the Energy Stars webpage, which is posted below here, there's something called an Energy Star Treasure Hunt. And this is where they organize teams to go around through your facility. These would be your employees, to kind of try to uncover some of the areas where there may be some waste. And then, and so on their webpage, they have how-to guides on kind of what to look for and how to set these things up. Different case studies are on there as well of different businesses that were really successful. And just lots of information on that website, and you guys can kind of feel free to look through that. And if that is something that you guys want to take a part of, we would be happy to set something up like that for you. And so feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information will be listed, I believe, on the last slide here.
Yeah, and along with that, this would be a good maybe starting point. Kind of how you're talking about benchmarking. This could be a good first step, and you can bring in ITAC as well, either after or during the treasure hunt to do this. The good thing about this is it's a team effort. It gets people involved, and hopefully, when more people are involved, more projects get done, more energy gets saved, and that's the whole point.
So what I'm hearing is team building activity, Energy Star Treasure Hunt, save money, celebration with donuts at the end, maybe. Excellent. And it sounds like there's some great opportunities, especially for small businesses here. Work with MSU ITAC to have a walkthrough, have an assessment, work with BWL or your utility or the Small Business Association to leverage those upgrades. There might be an opportunity to get those programs covered. So there's a lot of great resources here for folks to save energy and money. So I'm going to hand it back to. Go ahead.
Sorry, I would also like to add that we are with BWL, but every utility in the state offers similar things, and ITAC goes throughout the state as well. So just because you're not in BWL's territory, we had consumers and DTE's logos up there, but every utility will have these type of programs. So look at your bill, talk to them and say, hey, how can I get some help here?
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. Absolutely. I'm going to hand it back to our Michigan State folks to talk a little bit about payback periods and costs.
Yeah, so thanks, Audrey, and thanks a bit of Glenn and Nate. We just echoing on that, like rebate is like one of like a very important factor. Like we went to a lot of sites where people like the facility they use the full utilization of the rebate and they make a lot of upgrades using that even before the assessment. So that's like a great resources. So please look into the utility web pages and there are great resources available there. So like this is like kind of a few of the most implemented ones we just listed here. Now these are obviously depends on like which facilities we looked into. So these are mostly for the industrial buildings, and each building, each facility has their own needs. But these are after looking into close to like 100 facilities, these kind of comes up the most common one. And the first one exactly echoes with what Glenn mentioned was the compressed air leaks. So that comes up like way more than anyone can imagine, and that's one of the easiest fix out there, which can save a lot of money and comparatively at a cheaper rate. Similarly, there are like few others, like as an example, if we on the right side, the last column shows the payback period. So that's kind of the most important here because the total savings and cost depends on like how much the facility is actually, how big it is or how much it is actually consuming. But if we look into the payback, that kind of gives us a overview like how much it can come to for your facility. So we can see here, like most of them are listed here. Our payback is below 2 years, apart from just two of them, which is like row 3 and the row 10. So both of these two are kind of improving to more efficient equipments. So those are like the capital cost projects. So the capital cost project are also important, which improves the efficiency of the overall system. But at the same time, the operational and maintenance one is like a primary one of the major one, which can gives you a lot of savings at like a much lesser investment. So those yeah, and like that's where kind of we try to comes in and support like what are the scopes are there. Similarly, moving to the next slide, okay, these are like some of them for the commercial buildings. Now, for the commercial buildings, we can see a lot of them listed as lighting because in the commercial buildings, lighting consumes a big component, big part of it, along with HVAC, like the heating and cooling. So upgrading the like lights to LED and then using different type of sensors like either occupancy sensor or like if it's like outside in the parking, like use photo cells to like have it like dusk to dawn lighting controls, stuff like that, and then maybe like dimmable lights. So those are the lighting ones which are generally comparatively easy fix, and that can result in like a good amount of savings. For HVAC, like for commercial building, generally it may be difficult to replace the whole system, but there are like some parts can be improved or some like it can be they can use like the variable variable fan drive, like which doesn't like which kind of helps the fan to modulate at different speed rather than running at constant speed for the whole time. Those has like high potential of savings, and generally like all of them are listed here is all most of the times they are also have rebates. So these are like kind of a easier opportunity to look into those items. Moving to the next slide. So here we try to kind of come up with few of the case studies we did in last couple of years. So this is one for the industrial buildings. This was on the west coast of Michigan. This particular industrial facility is the facility cost like they consume the total electricity and gas bill was close to I think 600,000. uh, Now all the heating and cooling equipment there, like they have total 13 rooftop units, but all of them are running like more than 25 years old, and some of them are like not like fully operational. But because it's like difficult for the people, like the facility people to find a suitable item that can be replaced. So we try to like okay, suggest like which are the possible ones that can be used. Like we don't like suggest like any specific company name or something, but at least from the sizing perspective, which are available in the market, and that can result like close to like possible savings of close to 50,000. Then we saw in a lot of industrial facilities similar to this one, they have the dock doors, and it's literally open to the outside. So whenever the door is open for maybe like semis to come like connect to the facility, there was it just to in the cold outside, it just gets the cold air in, or during the summer also like the hot air comes in, and that kicks the heat HVAC system runs way more. So having like the electric air curtain, which is just try to reduce the air infiltration from outside to inside, saves a lot of amount of money. And then one more also in the picture only here you can see like they have the outside air section, like outside out like light section, and just beside that there are a couple of like high bay lights. so which are actually not needed that much, at least during this part time of the day. So those having the daylight sensor, like when there is enough daylight, you can just turn off those lights by automatically. That can also comes up with some savings. Now all the savings are like not cost say similar amount of money, but those are also kind of low hanging fruit which kind of you can do easily. Similar to the next slide, this is for one of our commercial conference center in MSU itself. This facility was also this is again consuming close to 150K electricity and gas bill. One of the bigger one, they are paying for the factor penalty. So their power factor was consistently below like close to 0.85 throughout the whole year. So there was so along with they are like rather than not using the amount of energy they are using, they are also paying a good amount of penalty. So improving the power factor can help a lot of direct savings in specifically from the cost perspective. Then they are using like high bay lights, like which are like fluorescent bulbs that can be easily replaced by LED. Uh, the building has had boiler and a chiller, and all the pumps are there was running at constant speed. So every time the chiller or boiler kicked in, it just put water at full flow, which is not needed, like kind of considering the shoulder months. So that can be controlled using VFD. So and then the boiler was also like it was on irrespective of what was the temperature. So it can be like it can be controlled like when the outside temperature is below a certain level, then only the boiler turns on. So this kind of some scenarios that can help you save a good amount of energy and money also. Yeah.
So so this slide here, so this is a case study for a local labor union, and this is actually a great example of how people took advantage of our delamping. So what they did here is they went from 4 bulbs down to 2 bulbs, and the cool part about that is not only are you going to cut 50% of your energy cost just by removing 50% of the lights, but um, we're also going to give you an incentive for the bulbs you took out and did not replace. So that's a great way to increase your incentive and also decrease the overhead cost that you're occurring. And so this company was able to replace all of their lights, have somebody paid somebody to do it, and had their entire project covered through our incentives. So this had an immediate return on investment, immediate reduction on their energy bill, and it provided a higher quality of life for their workers, and they're very pleased over there. Yeah, it was a great project. And so this one is, just kind of the other end of the spectrum. While this was still a great project, this had just a little higher return on investment. And the reason being here is they weren't running through the small business program; they were running through the commercial and industrial. These high bay lights were more expensive, and therefore you need a scissor lift and maybe some rewiring instead of just replacing some bulbs. So while some of these projects could be a little bit on the more expensive end, still a 7-year return on investment is great, and they're saving $32,000 on their bill per year. And then the people coming to visit and use these tennis courts here are much happier with their light output, and so it'll just kind of be an improvement that will be beneficial for years to come.
Fantastic. Some really great real world examples of how we can really realize the savings and maximize the incentives. And excellent. Thank you all. Glenn, you've unmuted.
Yes. Can I say one thing? We had the list from ITAC. I don't know if you want to go back to that. The list of measures and stuff, and they had the payback periods. One thing and they'll be able to do is, yeah, right there, yeah. So, like at the bottom, you have one that's a 4-year payback, and your company says, well, we're only going to do anything that's 2-year payback or less. But if you pair that that 4-year payback with another project and lump it into a bigger project, you could get that payback down to 2 years. So then you're still able to do those type of projects. So if you look at that, and that's what ITAC will do, is they'll talk about that probably in the initial meeting. What is your automatic payback? If something can fit a 2-year payback, will you automatically do that? And then they can kind of work that out so that more of your projects can hit that corporate payback threshold, I guess. So don't think that just because something's individually's got a higher payback period, if you go with multiple projects all lumped into one project, that one project can then hit that threshold, and you get your CFO on board with this, and he's willing to finance that project because he knows overall everything's going to come back and work things out. So I just saw that and I was like, some people, they get real itchy if it gets over 2 years, and others say it's 7 years and everything's good. But there's a lot of people that are itchy at 2 years. So pair those projects together, and that works out for everybody. You get more projects done, and things work out. So that's
you're hearing. You hear the terminology a lot: bundle and save. I think it'd be applicable here. Bundle your projects together.
There you go. Yep.
And you really be able to
not
show
just for your cell phone.
more bang for your buck, as it were. So just a super quick recap. We covered so much, what, where, and how of audits, some opportunities to save outside of audits. We just talked about some of the financial impact and implications and some great real world case studies. Because we were getting a little short on time, I just want to jump into panelist questions. I did see one come through in the chat that Glenn responded to. I'll name that in a minute. But one question that I wanted to ask was, what do you think is one investment that almost every facilities manager or facilities should take that perhaps they're overlooking today?
I can respond, or anybody else.
Please.
That's fine. One thing that I think people kind of overlook is controls. Controls for lighting, controls for HVAC. Nowadays, a lot of that stuff is wireless, so installation costs are a lot less than they used to be. I think before, maybe people they had it done, and it's like, oh man, it costs so much because they had to wire each equipment to the computer. And nowadays things are a lot easier. And granted, it was expensive before, and even the initial broiler stuff was expensive, but nowadays things are getting cheaper and cheaper. You do need the expertise of the person to set it up and get everything linked together. But I think it's well worth it. Kind of like benchmarking. If you can't monitor it, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. Speaking of controls, we do offer incentives for those as well. So
Yeah, and just want to echo that, control is very essential, because even if you install a new equipment, is also important to maintain it for the future. So if you have something installed and then not option to control it, then actually it's of not much of a value. So being able to control it for the long term actually gives you the overall whole benefit out of it.
That's great. Thank you. And there was a question that came through about incentives for businesses or developers looking to use geothermal. And the response came from to connect with Glenn and Nate directly about potentials there. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah. We can calculate an incentive for a geothermal system. We do have one project coming in for that. So yes, it is possible to get incentives on that. It isn't easy, and we're going to need a lot of data, but it is something we can do. I think ITAC probably figure that out as well. So if you have questions, you can let us know or ask them as well.
I think we'll all be learning more about that topic as in the months and years to come. A last question I'll ask is, how would you encourage or advise energy managers in buildings to account for fluctuating utility costs as we think about long-term investments of energy upgrades?
Well, one thing that's important to know is that the utility rates aren't going to go down at any time. And so while the return on investment with today's rates are might seem a little bit high, know that the energy is not going to really get cheaper, and neither is the product that you're going to use to install it. And so the sooner that you install this equipment, the more the more you're setting yourself up for the future, and the more you're setting yourself up to save on those higher rates and things like that. Regarding the fluctuation, I think it's just really important to just kind of monitor your energy usage throughout the year and collect the data and figure out where your high points are and prepare for those. And also try to create an action plan of how can we, I suppose, curb some of this higher energy usage, if there's ways to save, if there's ways to, maybe use energy at different times and use it less at others. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, and I know that ITAC gets your utility bills, and not just the ones that you see, but interval data that then can show them where your demand charges are coming from, and maybe where your power factor is. And that can be where you have fluctuating utility bills because, I didn't realize this was my demand time, and you're using your highest energy user in a process. But to Nate's point, just like anything else, you can hope utility costs will stay the same, but more likely they're going to keep inching up. So the sooner you get more efficient, the more you're going to save.
Yeah, and I also just comment on Robert's comment here with the CPACE financing. I personally have not heard of that specifically, but we are working with Michigan Saves that offers 0% financing, and so we have those types of options available.
Yes.
I was just going to add briefly to Glenn's comment. Within the ITAC team, we do often look at interval data analysis, especially for industrial facilities, and typically objects that we look at are for shifting kind of peak energy loads to help reduce those time of use charges and peak like summer energy charges, as well as we'll often look at if a rate change through the utility is beneficial for a company. We've had industrial facilities on commercial charges, and it would be more beneficial there on an industrial type of rate. And just we've seen so many different types of energy bills and types of energy structures. That's something that we will often look into as well for clients.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. We are just at time, so I'm going to quickly wrap us up, but I do want to appreciate all of our fantastic panelists and their excellent information that they shared with us. A round of applause for everyone. If you want to take next steps and get engaged with the MSU ITAC, there's some contact information as well as or with BWL. This information will be shared out after our webinar concludes, slides included with all of the links. Please get engaged. They're great resources and they're available. And I think Glenn said last time, don't leave money on the table. So let's connect. We would love to have you engage with the Lansing 2030 district. Either if you have not enrolled yet, please do that. We would love to collaborate either on education sessions or a tour. We would love to share your success stories. Some of these case studies are great examples of what is possible when we work together. And also we offer automated benchmarking services for those who might need a little extra help getting started. Lastly, some contact information. Although Kristen and Josh were not able to join us, they are their contact information is here. And so if you want to get engaged with them, or you can reach out directly to me, I'm happy to help get you connected. And if you'd like to explore a little bit more about the Lansing 2030 district, there's a QR code for you there. All of this information will be coming out again. I want to appreciate everybody's time. We are just about 1 minute over. Any closing thoughts, panelists?
I did notice that in the initial, there was a lot of community groups on the call. We can help your local things, but if not, please spread the word out to everybody that these things are available and we want to help.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
No, I just said thanks for everyone's time. That's all.
Oh, no problem. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great afternoon. If you're in Michigan, stay warm, and we'll see you on the next one. Again, thank you, panelists, for your expertise.